UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast on the United Federation of Podcasts. I'm your host, Patrick Devlin, and joining me, as always, is the amazing Amy Nelson. Amy, how are you?
Well, I'm doing good. I might need a new memory download. Was a little late today, but I'm here and very excited to be talking Star Trek with you, Pat.
It's not just you and I today. We have a special guest for the listeners.
Yes, we do. I'm very excited to introduce Ken Tripp. He is executive producer here on United Federation of Podcasts. Ken, welcome to All Good Things. You're our very first guest.
What an honor. What an honor. Hey, congratulations to the both of you. The first two episodes, I thought they were great. I loved the banter back and forth, and when I got the note asking me to come on, I was so excited. So thanks for having me aboard. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you on, and, this should be a good conversation.
Yes. Looking forward to it, because we've sort of been talking, behind the scenes, and we'll see what comes out.
I thought we were yelling at each other.
Oh, I got a little passionate. Yes, I did.
I think it was more, and the listeners won't believe this, but it's true. It was more you yelling at me.
Well, it's about damn time, right?
Yeah. she
right.
Does it a lot and never gets credit for it. They always think, oh, she's so nice, but she yells at me a lot. Even on mic.
But it never comes across that way, so.
Patrick, I learned a long time ago, don't mess with the queen. I mean, a long time ago.
So true. And realistically, in the podcast world, this is like, it's like arguing with your wife. It's just a losing battle anyway. So, anyway, if you'd like to contact the network, you can contact the network at contact@ufp.earth, on Twitter at @UFPearth, and on Facebook. So, I guess let's just get into it. The short treks. What'd you guys think of it? Ken, what was your first impressions of the new Children of Mars short treks?
My first impression, I walked away a little. Well, first I thought it was cleverly done, and I guess it just kind of had me frozen after I watched it, because there was a lot of things spinning in my head. Everything from interesting, video premise to, is this the Star Trek universe? Bullying, things like that, to the plot. It was emotional. It was well done, but it left my head spinning. So I would say that I was confused by it, and I guess more interested to find out what is going on.
Interesting. Amy, what were your first thoughts?
It was interesting because this short trek, right after I finished it, I wanted to watch it again. And I was looking and trying to recall if I'd had that experience. And the last time I had that with the short trek was Calypso. And that was my favorite of the, first time that they came out. So I absolutely loved it. It hit a lot of personal notes with me being a teacher and that whole education realm and students and bullying and being mean to each other, and also seeing their family life, which I see a little bit of as a teacher, and then learning and seeing Captain or Admiral Picard and seeing how that's going to fit into the new series and this attack on Mars. Like, there was, like you said, Ken, a lot going on, and I thoroughly enjoyed this short trek, more so than any previous one outside of Calypso.
Cool. So I enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as everyone else thought, or I shouldn't say that, as much as everyone else did. And I didn't hate it like most people thought I would, because I got messages almost immediately from people like Brandon. I loved it. You're going to hate it. I loved it. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate it. I loved it. Like, these are the messages I got. It's true. I don't like short treks. Part of the problem is I want this story. I don't want it in a short trek version. It hurts it for me personally that it's only 6 minutes of show. I get it works because it's 6 minutes, but I would have liked to have known more about these two little girls before getting into this part of the story. And not that it necessarily needs it, but that's what I want. And there were a few little things throughout the episode that annoyed me a little bit, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I like the message it sends, and I don't think bullying will ever be gone from school. So the fact that this happens makes perfect sense. I watched it 3 times, and I wasn't sure if the first time she bumps into her, that was on purpose or not still.
I think it was on purpose.
When they're going for the shuttlecraft?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure, so I figured let me ask. But even if whether it was or wasn't, I can definitely see all of the rest of those events kind of happening because of one little thing.
Yeah, and maybe you're right. Like that, it was incidental bump, and then that's what spurred, the back and forth between the girls. I mean,
it almost always does.
It would work that way, but I sort of took it as an intentional bump, like that those girls had history before and were just coming in at the, sort of the climax of their
right, and that may be true. It works either way. It's
yeah.
just I guess it's just a slight perspective issue on how it starts. But either way, the rest of the story works because the main part of the story is the last scene. See, now you said you liked that Admiral Picard was shown. I didn't like it at all. I felt it was forced in.
Ken, what did you think when you saw Admiral Picard?
Well, it just made me think that here's a retired admiral, and it's like the Federation News Network is going to get their commentary from the best-known expert in the field, right? So that's all I thought was, that's typical. Whenever there's a major event, they go to some retired general or admiral and say, hey, what are your thoughts? What's going on? And that's what I thought. I thought it I guess if I hadn't seen so much chatter about this short trek, I would not have known when the timeline was without that. Because, Patrick, I disagree with you on the bullying thing. This is the part that gets me nervous about where Star Trek's going. There's 2 things in this that have got me very concerned. One is that there is bullying because you don't evolve 300-400 years in the future to this utopian society. And then I'm starting to see a lot of Star Trek kind of go backwards. And that has me concerned about where they're going with the story. That's 2. And then the whole synth part of it. I'm going, okay, we've got kids fighting and things like that. And I know very young ages, perhaps, but they're old enough. They're definitely old enough to respect one another. And we should think that there's other ways besides violence to solve issues, even at that age. That's 1. And 2, it's like, are we going Battlestar Galactica here? What is this thought? Or I'm sorry, this plot process that we're going down? It has me very worried. It's like, and maybe it'll be brilliant. I just don't know. But I've seen this before. And that whole 9/11 feel to it was very powerful, no doubt. Okay, because there was no better unified time in this country than after that event in my lifetime. I'm sure Pearl Harbor, Kennedy's assassination, there were different shocking events that brought the country together. And that was obviously a metaphor, when they held hands because they realized they were in it together. Those are the elements that kept going through my head. It's like, where are we going with this next phase? Why are we writing about the Federation failing? And I get this feeling that, that's why Picard left, all this other stuff. It's like, this is going to be fascinating. I'm hoping if it's a journey where things fell apart, that it's a journey on putting it back together again. But I don't know. We only have these little 6-minute or these little clues here and there and countdowns and things, but it's going to be an interesting ride.
One of the things I disagree with is you said that the Federation's going backwards to go forwards. I do agree with that point. However, I believe that Star Trek's job is to mirror what's going on currently, right? Now, I want to take the actual politics out, but let's just take the people who talk politics, the average people, not pundits, not TV shows, nothing like that. The average right-wing and left-wing person can't have a normal conversation anymore at all with one another. So we've evolved from the 1900s, but we're back to just screaming at each other in the streets at this point. I mean, it's on Facebook, not the actual streets anymore. So the fact that that Star Trek is giving us a similar kind of failings of the current culture in their culture doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but you said it's their job, right? So I'm a TOS guy. The show came out in the height of the Civil Rights Act, Vietnam, or whatever, and posted a very optimistic view, meaning we can get through it. If it's just going to mirror today, you're Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think that these stories, because they're serialized, have to start in the negative to make its way to the positive. Unlike Star Trek. Yeah. Not serialized, I mean...
yeah, you're right.
No,
you're right.
Okay. Yeah. Instead of episodic, because episodic you can be in the optimistic part. Without having to build to it. My concern, because I have a concern about this too, if they do lean heavily on this war in Picard, if this has any playings on the show Picard, people are going to start screaming and yelling about how they hate it.
Well, it may be similar to what Discovery got with the Klingon War, and what's, sort of, again, this negative, dystopian, because we're starting in the negative and hopefully getting to a better place. And I don't know, even at the end of season 1 or season 2, if Discovery has ended us in this utopian place. And maybe they're thinking it's not going to because of the serialized nature. So, yeah, it does. Ken, you do bring up a really good point. And I wonder what's going to happen with Picard. Is it going to be introduced that, yes, there was an attack on Mars, and then the progress to getting us to a better place? That would be really great. I would like to see that, and hopefully not digress into the failings of humanity.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because we really don't know. But the other things, you talk about Discovery, all the events were ensuring that the Federation stayed intact. They were outside forces imposing their will or encroaching or whatever onto the Federation, right? And it wasn't an internal collapse of anything. And part of me was thinking, it is funny, right? We get so caught up in Star Trek, which is wonderful in many ways. But I sometimes go, well, okay, it's just a story. Things obviously will change and it'll go in different directions. But, to me, I was just like, did all the events that, took place, if you think about it, the Next Generation was a wonderful time for the most part. They had challenges, they thwarted it, and then it moved on to Deep Space Nine, horrific war. And that's where that timeline ends. You get Voyager in there, but it's far away and comes back. And it's like, did all of this fighting, all of these wars, the Dominion, the Borg, all these things, did that fracture the society that the Federation was? Are people now less optimistic that they can pull through? It's not because of themselves anymore, but it's almost like, well, what's the point? People can get very, hardened. Maybe that's the word. I don't know.
Disenfranchised.
Yeah, something. It's just interesting. It's... there has to be, you can't be at war as long as the Federation was with the kind of atrocities and loss that they had during the Dominion War and not have effects. I mean, you can't, but I'm just wondering, what are we watching here and how are they pulling all this together? And is this the first time we're seeing the battle come within the Federation itself? Hey, they got us on the edge of our seat here waiting for this answer. At least they do for me. I can't wait for it to start. I want to know where this thing's going.
Well, it was interesting to sort of read that, when Admiral Picard was on, and I did have to look it up a little bit, but on the TV screen, the summary was Rogue since attack Mars, 3,000 estimated dead. And right. I'm like, okay. So Rogue since, never even seen this wording before. So these synthetics, these AI, it sort of goes back to Measure of a Man and that battle way back in season 1 of TNG of creating this army of datas. And did this happen now where some And again, rogue synths sort of